Welcome in. It is the podcast according to sources. I am your guy, SD2 Mics, and I have the best wing players in podcast land running the wings on this podcast fast break. It is my guys, Chris CASON at C4 Dunk, and my boy from down in the dirty, Bryan Crawford at B_Crawford_D. As always, you can see right there on the scroll. Go subscribe to A2S Network on YouTube. For all of our previous content, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and all streaming platforms. Just type in according to sources or A2S Network, and you'll be able to grab us. Man, we have a great show tonight. We're going to talk about some firing, some possible hirings, some sneaks, and then we'll get to the peaks and lows. And we have a new segment. You good? Man, we're going to be asking some of the teams that are disappointing around the NBA what's wrong and what they need to do to get better going into the second half of the season. Tonight is the last set of games going into the All-Star break. A lot of stars will be resting. Got Luka Doncic resting. I believe LeBron is supposed to rest. Big matchup tonight between, I'm sure BC will be watching this game late. Dame,
I got it on. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely watching that.
Going head to head tonight. It'll be interesting. And today is a really important day in the NBA. Free agents that signed in the offseason are now eligible to be included in trades with the trade deadline coming up. So we'll talk about some of those guys that signed that are eligible that might be on the move and whether or not the trade deadline is going to be heavy with action or just kind of so we'll get into it. But we want to start off, as always, with our opening layups from our wingman. Let's go bounce pass to my boy C4.
Opening tip. I really don't have anything. I was just thinking about Lloyd Pierce, being fired from Atlanta. It doesn't make sense to me just because they're still a very young team, a lot of injuries this year. It's kind of weird also just to see a coach, fired just with the challenges this year as far as like having guys in and out of the lineup. So, props to Nate McMillan for going to Lloyd and making sure he had his blessings before, taking the interim coaching tag. But yeah, that's one I just don't get at all.
Bounce pass behind the back. BC, what's your opening layup?
I'm going to be petty. And I'm going to be petty because it was about a year ago this time, actually, next month. Well, it was about a year ago this time. I had made a comment about James Harden, and it caught the attention of, I guess, some local radio sportscaster down there. He retweeted me, blew me up. And, my point was basically you can't win with the dude. You know what I'm saying? So I had all of Houston, all the Rockets fans going crazy. So, fast forward a year later, James Harden ain't there. He's in Brooklyn. I believe they're playing in Houston.
Right.
And this same radio host just yesterday was talking about, oh, you suck. Nobody loves you here. No love for you here. Yada, yada, yada. What changed? You know what I'm saying? What changed?
The uniform.
That is it. And I told you from the gate, you can't win with that dude. So, yeah, he probably not going to see this, and, and that's cool. But, yeah, like I said, I'm going to be petty, man. I say what I say. People don't agree. But, when I hit, I hit. And y'all know me. I'm one thing. I'm consistent. And I've been consistent on James Harden. You know what I'm saying? So, now people finding out.
Hey, we want to go right into a C4. Gave us a perfect segue, the firing of one Lloyd Pierce down in Atlanta. And, Atlanta 15-20 on the season. They've been really struggling. And one of the most disappointing teams you talked about in our last episode, C4. They were one of your disappointing teams. I talked to you guys about it early on. I was watching games for 4 consecutive games. Capella and John Collins had more field goal attempts than Trae Young. And it was obvious that he wasn't being aggressive. And you come out and you look at him the game after Pierce is fired. He's ultra aggressive down in Miami, doing his thing. And I hate to say it was a player revolt on the court, meaning they had tuned him out. trying to get the coach fired. And like you said, shout out to Nate McMillan going to Pierce and asking for his blessing. And I bet you the argument to Pierce was, no, bro, you got to take this opportunity because we can't lose another one. And
right.
you can't have one of us with a head coaching spot in the NBA. You have to take the slot. So your thoughts about how everything is transpired down there in Atlanta and, you know, Trey not being aggressive on purpose, man, that right there is just shocking to me from a character standpoint. I thought I would never see that from the kid, but you know, your thoughts on the firing, and do you think Nate McMillan can get these guys back in the playoff hunt?
I mean, for me, I think before the beginning of the season when we had the podcast, we all expected, Atlanta to make a huge jump, particularly in the East, make the playoffs and everything like that. The John Collins situation, him missing games kind of hurt that. But then, like you said, Trae Young just wasn't being himself. And, I just kind of, dismissed it. And I didn't really think there was any internal problems like that. But, I think you're right. It was like a revolt. And a lot of the coaches around the league, they'll say good things about Lloyd Pierce, and I saw what some of the coaches said, like Pop and stuff like that. But regardless if he's a good X's and O's guy or player development or whatever, if you don't make that connection with your team, particularly with a young team, it can go downhill pretty quickly. So, I did think that his comments about him not liking Trey's shots, and the way he draws fouls, kind of similar to, some of the things that Steve Nash had said or what have you. I thought that was interesting, but, Nate McMillan is, a proven coach in the league. He has taken teams and he's won with them. So it's not like it's some super dramatic drop off, but then at the same time, the other part of that is, like you said, we can't lose another black coach. So for them to dismiss Pierce, but then give, Nate McMillan the shot after the assistant in San Antonio gets passed over, or doesn't even get a look, I'm okay with this, so regardless of how it ends up in Atlanta, I'm okay with this right now anyway.
Before C4 jumps in, you go through the case, what happened in Minnesota. They went outside of the organization and literally went and got somebody that they fell in love with during the interview process 2 years ago. You know,
maybe I'm mixing up my coaches. Maybe it was the assistant in Minnesota.
That's the assistant we're talking about.
David Vanderpool.
For him to not even get a look, and he's been there. That's crazy.
C4?
Yeah. I think just the situation with Atlanta is kind of weird just because, like you said, we all expected them to make a jump, but when you break it down to, like, who did they sign? Bogdanovich, Gallinari, and Rondo. And those guys have missed a significant amount of time so far this season, whether it be due to just regular injury or like COVID health and safety protocol. So I was a little bit surprised. But I don't think the Trey thing was more so a revolt to Pierce. I do know that there has been like internal things with like John Collins. When a guy turns down a $90 million extension before the season and bet on himself, and he's maybe only getting 7-8 shots per game, and they're all like lob attempts, I think that causes a huge friction in there. And these guys are still fairly young, so you're trying to still have guys young enough who I think roles like that in between of expectations, playoffs, and you still have guys that are still, figuring things out and trying to carve their niche in the league. But happy for Nate McMillan. I think he can help, instill like a little bit more, probably say some further discipline. Selection is going to be what Trae Young's shot selection is. That's gifted offensively like that, but I think he'd be, take some of those 30, 32, 35 footers. You know, it's all about time management, clock management, and where you are like on the scoreboard. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens for the rest of the season. I'm really in the thick of things for that playoff, thing. I mean, but yeah, it's just a weird firing to me, just with this season being what it is.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference is crazy too, because even though they're 15-20, I think they're only 4 games out of the 5th spot behind the Celtics. Everybody's bunched together,
Yep.
so I mean they can go on a quick run right here and hop right back into the heat of the race in the Eastern Conference. And you talk about Nate McMillan. One of the things he did immediately, he went to Herter instead of Bogdanovich in the starting lineup, and we saw Tony Snell getting a lot more tick as well. So
Who?
in itself looks like Nate is going to a more defensive lineup.
You said who? Got some time?
You know who I said, your favorite small forward, man.
Oh man, not him. I did see him on the court the other day. That was funny.
All right. So we man, you gonna give us play-by-play, VC?
Nah, my bad. I meant to mute that. My fault.
I thought something had happened. But they didn't start. They started 9, right?
Yeah, they started 9.
They started 9.
This was who was this? New Orleans or Chicago?
Yeah, man. Speaking of that, that's a perfect segue. Yo, let's talk about Zion Williamson, man. We had talked about it in previous podcasts. He makes his first All-Star game. His teammate Brandon Ingram made the All-Star team last year. There was some debate whether or not Zion should have made the All-Star team over Devin Booker. The month of February has been fantastic. 27 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. I think at the end of January, we saw them make the strategic move to give him the ball, open the offense, and turn him into a point forward. And we've seen early in the season, C4, you pointed out on one of our earlier podcasts that SVG was getting him more in motion and getting him the ball moving instead of being, in the corner waiting for a 3-point shot late in the shot clock. And with the adjustment of adding that along to giving him possessions at the point forward, even though they don't have the players to really space the floor, he still found a way to dominate in the paint, shooting 62% and averaging 25 points per game. I would love to see him get his rebounds up to about 9 or 10 and be a little bit more active, especially on the defensive board. But you have to be pleasantly surprised with the growth with a kid who still hasn't played a full season. He's only played 59 regular season games to this point.
I mean, I was happy to see him play 59 games. I mean, and I'm happy to see him, be on the court a lot more. I mean, the guy he's unbelievable. He's still, everything he does is just basically off raw talent and ability. Like, he still hasn't, really developed some of the, what I would say, like, finer points of offense and things like that. But, he can do everything, and he plays hard, and he's super strong. So once he starts to get, certain things in his bag, then he's just going to be ridiculous to stop. Not that tall, but just very big and strong. He's basically like a center on the perimeter. He's just not that tall, but, he's very effective in everything that he does. And, as long as he's healthy, it looks like to me, he's just going to keep getting better.
C4, what are your thoughts about the kid?
I think just you mentioned his, like the February here, this guy averaged 20 points in the paint, which is ridiculous, for somebody that's maybe 6'5", 280, which is ridiculous. Right. But, he's one of those players that literally is a walking mismatch. He's a big one, he's going to blow right past him. You pull a smaller player out of him, no matter if he's on the post or on the perimeter. If he gets his shoulder into your chest, you're done. There's nothing you could do about it. He's getting his shot blocked a lot at the rim, but he's always like the first guy off the floor, to corral it, and he's right back at the rim. So it's been good to see just his progression. But I think Stan Van Gundy is still trying to figure out like a lineup with them, because it's just a weird roster that really isn't tailored like specifically to him. I think that they'll probably be like a 2 moves away to get like what they want to accomplish around him, but you can't argue with what he's doing, so far in the second season. I mean, playing a lot more minutes. They're putting the ball in his hands more, letting him create. Like I said, I think the future is just bright for that team. I don't know what they're going to do with Lonzo. I mean, but Eric Bledsoe really doesn't fit there to me with what they're trying to do, and he definitely does need at least be on the floor with at least 3 shooters at all times, because like I said, you have to double him if he catches the ball in the paint.
And modern day Charles Barkley, man, like same kind of thing. Like,
man. Yeah.
I would even say he's probably more explosive. Man, he yammed Daniel Gafford tonight.
Oh, I mean, the explosion part of it is there. I just think, with Charles Barkley, he came in, he had a couple of years of college ball under his belt, so he's a little bit more polished.
Right.
But, I mean, in terms of, like, just not being that tall, but being super strong, can handle the ball and get up off the floor, it's the exact same thing.
Man, you watch his game, do you think now he really hasn't, with the pandemic, he's not had a normal offseason quite yet, right? Because they were going in the offseason working out in shifts. So he really hasn't had a full offseason to get ready. He hasn't played a full regular season schedule. I talked to our guy, Gino, Stay Humble on Twitter, and we were talking about the counters that he needs to learn, like what counters are going to come up. So what's the next step? I'm thinking the next step is like face, jab with the short jumper, or will it be like going over his left shoulder instead of his right shoulder to his left hand?
I mean, I think at some point he's going to have to get a face-up game, and he's going to have to, get some footwork to go along with that. Right now, he just, like Chris said, he's just putting his shoulder in people, just moving them out the way. Like, it don't even matter, like, if you a shot blocker, like you said, he's big enough to where you can go in there and block it, but he's quick and fast enough, he's going to get it right back and catch you off balance, and he might dunk you, you know what I'm saying? Off the offensive rebound. So, but just that face-up game, obviously working on his jumper some more. I mean, I was having a conversation on Twitter the other day talking about the mid-range game. Man, if Zion developed a mid-range game, forget it, it's over. Because he's big enough, he can move you out of the way and then just pull up on you, just explosive like that. So it's a couple of little things that he needs to get into his game, but right now it's just all speed, strength, and power. And he can live off of that. He can make a lot of money doing it. But if he wants to develop like as a player, like I said, earlier, he just gets some more things in his bag. But definitely, face up, being able to, work on his mid-range game. And, we know that he can stretch it out to 3. I think that should come later. But right now, just like what he needs to develop in the short, immediate term, I think is just, everything inside, moving outside of the paint a little bit more.
Man, the unknown factor or the unknown variables of the future of his game, you can kind of like combine that with last season coming off the All-Star appearance. A lot of people thought that New Orleans would build around Brandon Ingram because we had not seen a lot from Zion. But moving forward, I think it's safe to say that if you're going to win down there, you're probably going to end up building around Zion and getting shooters and placing them around him along with Brandon Ingram. So with that being said, C4, you touched on briefly about the 2 players away. Would those 2 players be a shooting guard or a point guard that can stretch the floor and a big man that can stretch the floor? Is that the direction you think they should go in?
That's what I think they got David Griffin over. Him that makes this so unique. There hasn't really been, I mean, any player really in recent memory that kind of like had that, whatever Zion is, it's kind of hard to know how to build around him. I mean, because do you keep him at the 4, small ball, with him at the 5? I don't know how to it's like it puts you in this difficult position. Like, how do we best construct these things to not only highlight things for him, but make it easier for him. So I think I would say maybe a more like accomplished, point guard to set things. I don't know. It's just really difficult to say right now, just because there's no like blueprint to say, all right, this player is like similar to Zion, so we can see what they did wrong, see what they did right. That's just an anomaly. That dude's 6'5", 280, and you look at what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. It's like trying to find people to pair with him is difficult right now. I would need some time to sit back and see who can you put next to him that will make things easier for him.
Well, I mean, I think the first person you probably got to get rid of, and it might sound crazy, is Brandon Ingram. I don't think they both like to have the ball in their hands to score. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to kind of like pick your poison. Obviously, if you're gonna build around Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram is not gonna be happy with getting less shots, getting fewer shots. And as Zion progresses into the league, he's not gonna be happy with that either. So I don't really think that that can work. So I mean, I think if somebody has to go, it's probably Brandon Ingram. And I know everybody's talking about getting rid of Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball is the perfect person to play with Zion. Because he can do everything else, and he's not really looking for a whole bunch of shots. So, man, yeah, I'm kind of like Chris was like, I would really have to sit back and think about it, but definitely for sure, Eric Bledsoe don't know, and I think I think Brandon Ingram eventually has to go.
Yeah, it's weird to see what they're gonna be. Obviously, I mean, I'm just trying to forecast 3 years. A lot depends on how Zion develops, and that's on both ends of the floor. That'll give you a better see. Hey, do we need a guy like a Steven Adams to protect the rim for this guy, or do we just say F defense, we're just going to outscore you because Zion can play up and down. He can play half court. So it's just weird. I mean, I look at the Lonzo Ball situation also is I know he's in a lot of trade rumors, but there's probably nobody better to get him the ball like how he likes it and, the way he likes it. But with them now putting the ball more so in Zion's hands, it's forcing Lonzo to be like a spot-up shooter, which is probably not a strength at this point, even though he is knocking them down this year. But I don't know. It's just a weird roster, and I think just Zion's strength and who he is as a player is so unique that there really is no blueprint to how to build around a player like that.
And you just mentioned Steven Adams. He in the way. He probably got to go too. I don't think you need Steven Adams in there at all. Once Zion, like Chris said, develop, it's probably gonna be next year. You're not gonna need Steven Adams. You want him to be the only person down there in the paint.
That's interesting, BC, because you talked about moving Brandon Ingram. He just got his money too, so the contract really isn't that bad, and he's young enough where somebody could probably see him being, a one on a squad, and he'll probably give you maybe a couple of veterans or give you a package that includes some shooters and maybe a nice guard. I'm trying to think of a team that would be open to that. I can't think of a team offhand that would be a good trade partner, but that's interesting, the prospect of moving Brandon Ingram to kind of build the squad out around Zion.
I mean, I don't think you really want Brandon Ingram to be your number one anyway. Obviously, as a player, he probably thinks he's number one. It feels like he's number one. And he definitely takes number one shots, but he's a tier below guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
What if you moved him? Let's say just hypothetically, you moved him to Orlando, and you got back Vucevic.
I don't think you need Vucevic. I think that's the same issue that I'm having with Steven Adams being down there. Now, if you're talking about
Vucevic is much more of a stretch big, though.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, that might be.
I'm really just trying to think of stretch bigs that you can get back along with somebody else in a package for Brandon Ingram to kind of start building the team out.
I mean, I think
that deal. I don't know if it exists right now.
I think if you send Brandon Ingram to Orlando, that'd be a perfect spot for him. I will say that, but maybe Vucevic can work. I don't know. I have to think about that. But a stretch big probably would benefit Zion a lot more than somebody like Steven Adams, who needs to be right up under the basket and be effective. But Vucevic in New Orleans, that'd be tough. That'd definitely be tough. I would definitely make that trade from the Pelicans. I don't know how Orlando feel about that.
Yeah. Man, another player that's hot. Started only 14 games since being implemented in the starting lineup down in Charlotte due to Devontae Graham's injury. LaMelo Ball is at 23 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists per game. Went on the West Coast, some tough road games, put on a show in Phoenix, put on a show in Sacramento, and then went up to Portland and put on a show. And there was a lot of hubbub. A lot of Carmelo Anthony fans have been upset because people have been calling LaMelo Melo on social media. And
it's only one.
Melo had a great game. I think he hit 10 straight shots last night.
Cooking people.
And we come back. I mean, we need to talk about that too. But this is what Carmelo Anthony had to say about LaMelo and the name Melo being in the NBA for another 10 to 15 years.
It's somebody who is going to be in this game for a long time. So that the name Melo, you guys might as well continue getting used to that or stay with it. I don't get into that though. You know, it's for me, it's a respect thing. It's an honor, you know, for him to have that name, for him to embrace it. It's an honor. It's a blessing. It's a respect thing for me. So I embrace him. You know, I embrace him.
Yo, the first thing I want to say is, man, he stood next to Melo and might have been like
an inch shorter than him.
That's you know, the kid is 19. If he grows, this kid might get to like what 6'10". And you know, look, I hear a lot of people saying like they're surprised at what this kid is doing. Honestly, I'm not. I'm just not. I'm just not. I knew he knew how to play the game. The only thing I was really worried about was his shot. And, you know, once he was inserted into the starting lineup, his three-point percentage went from 32% up to now he's shooting 42% from the three in the starting lineup. And Charlotte's playing well. They're in the playoff hunt. How big would it be for Charlotte and the Ball brand if this kid leads them to the playoff?
I mean, I was high on Melo from the gate, man. The only thing I'm mad at is the Bulls missed on him. Like, can you imagine him being in Chicago with Zach LaVine right now?
Would that be? Is that something you think they'll regret moving forward?
I mean, what nothing they could do about it. They had. I mean, they had one pick too late. You know what I'm saying? That's all that was.
Bulls got enough regrets.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of those.
Do you think the Golden State or Minnesota will have regrets?
No.
Well, maybe Minnesota, but I mean,
no.
Anthony Edwards has been not. Well, no, I don't know. No, I don't know because I don't know about that one. They. I
think Minnesota probably more than Golden State because I mean Wiseman is.
He wasn't gonna fit in Golden State anyway. Like that's just it. He would have been stuck on the bench behind Steph, and that was never gonna work.
I mean, what's about Carmelo and LaMelo? Detroit passed on Carmelo, and now you got two teams that passed on LaMelo.
I think if anybody got regrets, it's Minnesota because LaMelo looked like the rookie of the year right now. And him playing with Karl Anthony Towns, like it's just another one of those situations of you got two people who need the ball to be effective. But I mean, as far as Charlotte,
you were up front saying, take the kid and trade D'Angelo. You were up front.
Yeah, easily. And D'Angelo, I mean, he's had his issues. He ain't really played a whole lot this year. So I mean, exactly right. So I mean, you know, hindsight is 20/20, obviously. But I was saying, hey, the kid was the best player in the draft, like no question. I like Anthony Evans, but but he's showing you everything that he's doing, and it's just really him out there. You got Gordon Hayward, but like he is by far the best player on the team. Like there's no question about that.
You being disrespectful to Scary Terry, bro.
He had a nice little run. He did none of the last 4 games. And it just might be the road trip. I don't know, but yeah. If Devontae Graham is not hurt, Scary Terry is probably not playing like this. He's definitely not getting the minutes to be able to do that.
I don't know. He's had a decent year. And I think Gordon Hayward has been a
very nice pretty good year.
Force. Yeah, he's been a stabilizing force.
He's Reggie Jackson to me. I like him.
C4 has LaMelo's play shocked you?
A little bit. I was a little bit worried. The one thing about his game, that kid's just a hooper. Like you really can't let him play. Like he's one of those kids you have to let play. He's gonna have some turnovers, some things, because I think the way he sees the game is very unique. So he's throwing like passes guys are not accustomed to receiving. He's made Bismack Biyombo look good. Not to say anything about Bismack Biyombo, but Bismack Biyombo, nobody could pass him the ball really last year. This guy's getting him easy looks, at least 4 or 5 a game. So I mean, kid doesn't get rattled, confident, and he plays freely. That could be at the detriment of the team sometimes, but one thing that I have liked is they've allowed him room now to grow. He had a lot of turnovers, I think, to the early part of the year, but those are kind of scaled back, and he's just going out there playing, man. And it'll be big if get Charlotte into the playoffs. Just for how, I won't say how horrible their franchise has been for a while, but I'll definitely say things are finally, there's an upswing. There's a reason to go to Hornet games now.
I mean, he's a pro, man. He's been playing professional basketball since he was 17, 16. So it's you already playing with grown men. You could probably barely bench press 100.
It's been grown for it. It's been grown for it.
Yeah, he's been grown to be a professional. And the other thing I always said was he was gonna be the best one, and you can see that. You know what I'm saying? So he's showing and proving that he is definitely the real deal. So I mean, like I said, I'm just mad the Bulls just missed out by 1 pick, man. If he was in Chicago, forget it.
So when you talk about that, and I think C4, we touched on this via text this week. You look at Charlotte and what they have there, and DC, you said something last podcast when you said, man, really look at the Pelicans roster. What do they really have around Zion? And then we've already talked about the Atlanta Hawks roster. When you look at the young rosters around the league, are you still taking Atlanta over everybody else? Or is the star power and the ceiling of Zion and LaMelo really good enough to make you come off of that?
I don't know. It's a good question. Atlanta basically it's probably a wrap for them this season. New Orleans is tough because they just in the West, and Charlotte, they probably got as good a chance as any. I mean, I just think Atlanta got off to a bad start, and it's just kind of too late to recover from that. So
they sacrificed the season trying to get rid of their coach.
I don't know if they necessarily sacrificed the season to get rid of the coach. I just think it fell apart. I think they went into, I think they just went into it with high expectations. But whatever happened between the start of the season and up until Lloyd Pierce got fired, who knows? I don't think that team is done. But I mean, in terms of this season, it might be too late for them to do anything.
No, they're in the East, so I still think, like you said, if they go on a 4-game winning streak, they're right back in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. And when you look at the way Boston has played, some say New York is playing a little bit, just above what they, could be. So, I mean, there's still room there. Yeah, New Orleans is tough. Definitely being in the West. It's going to take, I think maybe I would say 3 to 4 years, especially when you look at what type of moves that they can make. But when you look at just like the next 3 to 5 years in the West, what it's going to look like, it's going to be very hard, for New Orleans, just to crack playoff contention to me, just because how deep it is there. So yeah, I would definitely still take Atlanta.
Yeah, let me retract that because I'm looking at these records. They 15 to 20, and they're like basically a game back out of 8.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let me retract that. If Lloyd Pierce truly was a problem and they had checked out, like I said, Nate McMillan, at the top of the show, Nate McMillan is the winner.
Yeah.
And if they can buy into what he's doing, and like Chris said, if they win 4-5 in a row, that might start something. So yeah. Yeah, let me retract that. I think Atlanta probably can turn it around.
You know what? I saw you debating this on Twitter. Going overseas to play or just being the younger brother, which had more of an impact on the confidence for LaMelo Ball?
Going overseas.
Going overseas.
I mean, he probably always was the better one. You know what I'm saying? Like the boys came up playing against each other. I think you can see very early that LaMelo probably had everything that the other two didn't. But that's kind of how it go, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
that's
you got
always
the oldest two. That's how it go. Like you got the oldest one. Like you look at the Marberries, right? Like Juju was the best one, but Steph was the baby. He ended up being the one to make it. So
right.
It's because he's seen everything that happened in front of him. You know what I'm saying? So he knew what to do, what not to do, how to do, and work on his game out of that, looking at his older brothers. So yeah, I think that's all it was. That's just how it go, man.
Just imagine, man, 3 summers ago, the 2 kids we just talked about, Zion Williamson and LaMelo Ball, had the highest viewed EYBL game over the summer in AAU out in Vegas. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
it's still
I know what
those views.
Man, I know what them events is like, man. Like when you get that one big game at the EYBL, you ain't never seen like just crowds of people. You gotta be at that court for the game prior. You know what I'm saying? Because if you 5-10
maybe earlier than that,
man, you 5-10. I seen it happen in Dallas, man. Like I watched Mean Streets, and I'm lucky I kept my seat because the Texas Titans and I forget it was like another team from like Houston that was playing like right after that.
Was that the Twins? Because was that the Twins that ended up in Kentucky?
No, this was like 2 summers ago. Like this was like a couple summers ago.
That was like the Maxi squad then. That was like Maxi and yeah.
But I was there to watch Tyler Euless' younger brother, and I was sitting, next to his pops or whatever. So we sitting there, we talking, not paying attention to what's going on, and the next thing you know, like you could feel like just people just coming, and I'm looking around like, what's going on? Oh, Texas Titans about to play, and man, I was talking about it was like. So yeah, I know what the AAU situation is like. So yeah, I know that game was pretty big in the EYBL.
C4, you talked about it. Let's talk about possible Coach of the Year candidates. We can talk about Monty Williams, or is it going to be Tom Thibodeau? And what Tom Thibodeau has done with the New York Knicks, 2nd overall in defensive efficiency, number 1 in the league, and points per game given up, which is typical for a Tom Thibodeau-led team to be focused. But the way they're doing it without their defensive anchor, Mitchell Robinson, who's been now injured, and then Taj Gibson has been out the last 4 games on that defensive interior. And, what he's been able to do, of course, they acquired Derrick Rose. Elfrid Payton goes down to injury. Derrick Rose comes in, and he's played very well. And it seems like Tibbs purposely kind of linked him to Emmanuel quickly to kind of mentor him. And the season that kid continues to have has been amazing. Do you think Tibbs and the Knicks can keep their spot at the 4th seed and host the first round of the NBA playoffs as it stands today?
What I will say about Tibbs is, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the one thing I can say about Tibbs is, I mean, he can make anybody not look like a bum. You know what I'm saying? Look at RJ Barrett, man. Like, you know, he got that kid looking good. But man, all Tibbs needs is a group of guys that's gonna buy into what he's talking about and what he's doing. That's all he needs. You know, and you know, you talk about Derrick Rose's impact on Emmanuel quickly. Derrick is there to impact that entire team. You know what I'm saying? Like you are with Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP ever, and the man responsible for that is your head coach. And everybody around the league respect, you know, D Rose. You know, a lot of these guys that he's playing with watched him, you know, growing up. They saw the MVP season, so they know all about that. And so they just needed guys to come in and kind of reinforce, you know, everything that Tibbs is about. And we know that Tibbs is a winner, like without question. He's won everywhere he's been. So when you talk about coach of the year conversation, most definitely Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, he definitely belongs in that conversation. I mean, when you just look at the Knicks as a franchise the last 10 years, you know, now you have just a group of, like, nobody would have looked at this roster at the beginning of the year and thought they would be, you know, at the top of the East, you know, right now at this point in the season. But one thing Tibbs does do is he gets guys to buy in, you know, whether that wanes or not as it gets towards like year 3 and year 4 doesn't really matter. But right now, like all those guys are playing for each other. And that's one of Tom's like just unwavering traits is he's able to get you to focus, lock in, be accountable. I mean, there's a little bit of Doc Rivers to Tom Thibodeau a little bit, but I'm not surprised really at all because I watched a lot of the Knicks the beginning of the year, and I've seen some of the things that he had them doing defensively, which goes back to what, you know, he had the Big Three doing it in Boston. So there's a lot of similarities to like some of the defensive principles that carried over from that time. But I mean, it's been fun to see. I mean, that team that's actually fun to watch too, which is like you wouldn't expect it because you look at that team and you're like, man, who can I watch? Like who's the draw there? I mean, is it Julius Randle? Like his game isn't sexy by far at all. But I mean, this is a team that plays hard. They play together. They get out and run. They defend. I mean, and it's basically a Tom Thibodeau coach team. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's having a ball too.
Man, that pick and roll with D Rose and Julius Randle is just wrecking shop right now, especially with the ability of Julius Randle to step out to that 3-point line and consistently knock down shots. And like you said, you know, a lot of fans, we can just go ahead and talk about who's been big mad with BC right now because it goes right in line with the Knicks. Knicks fans were jumping all over BC saying he was wrong and he missed on what the Knicks would do this year and he missed on who RJ Barrett was. I guess they've seen something from RJ Barrett to where he's become a star. I do remember a lot of people saying RJ Barrett would be better than Zion Williamson, though.
Man,
I remember those people.
The only thing I missed on is the Knicks being good, but I kind of underestimated the Tibbs. But RJ Barrett's still trash. I don't care what none of them say.
Look, Tibbs, I think the back end of everything that happened in Minnesota kind of pulled people away from the head coach that Tom Thibodeau is, because the way things went down between Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, and Andrew Wiggins. But I think it was proven that the fact that he was able to lead them to the playoffs in that series with Houston, his first season showed the type of coach he was, and things just went haywire after that because, you know, they weren't ready. Those youngsters weren't ready to step up to the challenge of what Jimmy was asking them to do, of what Jimmy was willing to play, the level that he was willing to play at.
Well, I mean, Tibbs is going to always be a victim of narrative, right? They're going to always blame him for, you know, guys getting hurt and wearing down. I personally don't believe that. But that's just what it is. So that's the only thing that he's going to be faced with, you know, forever. And I think it's wrong. I think what Chris said was true, though. It's like, you know, eventually he's probably going to wear out his welcome in New York. Like he's going to grind those guys down to, you know, nothing at some point. But when you look up, they're going to be in one like 150 games. You know what I'm saying? Probably more than that. So you know, it's a trade-off there, but I think he's a very good coach. And I think his strongest suit is in player development. Everybody he's got his hands on, he's made better. If you had even like a semblance of talent, you know, he was going to turn you into something. And you know, so THIBS is my guy, man. Like I ain't got nothing bad to say about him ever. You know, the fact that he's in New York and winning, which I'm also a Knicks fan. Like people think I hate the Knicks because of what I said. No, I've always liked the Knicks, and I want to see them do well. And with a guy like THIBS in there and Derrick Rose, that just makes it even better for me. So I enjoy it, but I am not sold on RJ Barrett, and I'm still not sold on Obi Toppin. And that is not going to change.
The podcast, according to sources, right here, A2S Network. I got my guys Chris CASON and BRYAN Crawford with me, running the wings. You know, you talk about Tom Thibodeau's go to the Western Conference, the head coach that we saw it in the NBA bubble, the run that the Phoenix Suns went on in the NBA bubble, and barely missing the opportunity to enter into the playoffs. But the culture was changed, and the tone was set. And then they go out, the acquisition of Chris Paul to bring in the leadership and to go ahead and help Devin Booker out. Devin Booker eventually made the All-Star team after being snubbed initially.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, 2 years in a row. As I said before, a lot of people had issues with Zion making a team before him. But what this team has been able to do, and the culture change that Monty Williams brought starting last year in the NBA bubble, you know, how impressive has it been? And then, you know, would you put him above Tom Thibodeau in the Coach of the Year race right now?
Probably. And I say that because, like Phoenix, like you saw going back into the bubble, what they won, like 8 in a row.
Yeah.
So like you kind of saw it building up to that. Like you know, whatever Monty Williams is doing over there, those guys have bought in, you know, about as much as they, you know, have in New York under THIBS. The difference is they're doing it in the West, which is so much tougher. And it's also a testament to Chris Paul. I think I saw something. It's like Chris Paul, every team he's been on, like Chris Paul has never missed the playoffs on any team he's ever been on. And so it's a testament to him too. And like he said, you know, I saw an interview he did the other day, you know, where he said he claimed, you know, he came to Phoenix to play with Devin Booker. And so I think all of that, you know, kind of probably puts Monty Williams at the head of that Coach of the Year race, you know, just because, you know, it's Phoenix, you know, they just kind of been like, they ain't even really been on the cusp. Like you could see it building, but like they never really,
11
they never got over the hump.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you saw, like they got the pieces, but they never got over the hump. So, you know, like I said, it's just it's a testament to those guys playing well on the money. You know, they don't have like no friction, they no issues on their team. You know, they got those guys that's going out there and hooping. They understand who the man is. And then, you know, you got a guy like Chris Paul, who is a veteran, like calming influence on that team, who can help everybody on that squad get better. The player that I still have concerns about is DeAndre Ayton. I think he got a lot of talent. I think he has a lot of ability, but he still kind of quite hasn't put it together just yet. But if it ever clicks for him, then Phoenix is going to be a problem. But, you know, again, in that Coach of the Year conversation, it's probably Monty Williams. Like, if they can keep this going, yeah, he'll win it. I don't think it'll be a question.
Yeah, to me, he's number one. I would say one, to me, like 1A. I still, if we're talking about right now, I still put Quinn Snyder like as a Coach of the Year favorite for what Utah's done so far to this point. But I mean, when you look at the culture in Phoenix, how it's been changed, the last, I would say, 3 years when James Jones got over there and he took over and he started making some changes, it's been tremendous. I mean, going back, I think Monty is the right coach for there. I think he's like probably, along with Devin Booker, the main reason Chris Paul wanted to go to Phoenix, because you look at where Chris Paul is at in his career, say Monty Williams wouldn't have been over there, but Devin Booker is still doing what he's doing, I doubt he wants to go to Phoenix if it's another coach. I mean, he'd already had experience with Monty in New Orleans, so it's just like a match made in heaven. And what he's been able to do, I think, just so far in Phoenix is getting guys to be accountable, because it's still like a fairly young team just outside of him, but making guys accountable, putting guys in the right position to make sure they're successful. And like BC says, I do have like, I'm just still trying to see what Aiden is going to be. And it's kind of hard when you're a talented big, but the offense isn't catered to you. You're pretty much now, instead of having the ball dumped down to you, you're spending most of your time setting screens or, you know, rolling to the rim, you know. And for a lot of these guys that have been the man all throughout high school, like 1 year of college, I don't think it's talked about enough how big an adjustment that is for a big to go from, you know, getting the ball dumped down to him being the featured guy to now setting 40 screens, you know, a game, you know, constantly rolling to the rim. You might not see the ball 4 or 5 times down the floor, but, you know, you still got to protect the rim. You still got to roll to the rim hard, set solid screens. So I'm still waiting to see what he can become, but the talent is there. I mean, and I think Phoenix will keep up, you know, the place this far, you know, just with health permitting, of course.
That boy looking like Miles Turner 2.0.
The podcast, according to sources.
Oh, man.
Hey, you said it, Quinn Snyder. Right now, the best record in the NBA. I don't know how that game with Philadelphia turned out. It was a great game. Nail biter going down to the last 30 seconds. It was a 2-point game. And best record in the NBA. I believe they, in the month of February, they had a record of what, 12-2? Yeah, they had a record of 12-2. They're holding on to the number 1 seed in the West. And Utah is the only team in the NBA top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. So, like you said, Quinn Snyder's done an incredible job. C4, we saw this firsthand at the United Center, and this recent run, 11-2 in the month of February for the Phoenix Suns. They are a +9 in the fourth quarter. Like, they're winning these games in the fourth quarter. And we saw that comeback against the Chicago Bulls, where the Bulls outplayed Phoenix for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, Phoenix just turned it on. We saw it even last night, even though they were neck and neck with the Lakers. And we'll get to the ejection of Devin Booker in that game, which was strange. But Cam Johnson came in, and then they just went on a run in the fourth quarter and stretched it out on the Lakers, and the Lakers would never recover. So is that really about the maturation of Devin Booker, or is that the leadership of Chris Paul you're starting to see with this team, with them being able to win the fourth quarters the way they are?
Oh, that's Chris Paul all day. Without question, that's Chris Paul. He's been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been in them situations, so he could tell guys where to be, how to go, you know, how to respond. And, you know, when you got a young team like that, it's one thing when you're trying to just figure it out on your own. And it's another thing when you got a vet, and not just any vet, but somebody that you respect, who, like I said, who could tell everybody in that locker room, regardless of what position they play, what they're supposed to be at the moment they're supposed to be there and what they're supposed to do in those situations. So, you know, it's like having 2 coaches on the floor. You know what I'm saying? You got Monty Williams over there, and then you got Chris Paul. You know, when everything is moving fast and changing, he can calm you down and, you know, and tell you what's going on. So that fourth quarter stuff, that's all Chris Paul.
And when I said +9, that's +9 per game in the fourth quarter, not a total +9 in fourth quarters during that stretch of 11-2 in the month of February.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Chris Paul does. I mean, you go back to last season, what he did in Oklahoma. I think the number 1 like clutch player, which I think they define as just like the last 5 minutes of the game. I believe he was like tops in the league, you know, just at that. I mean, Chris Paul controls, that's Chris Paul time. I mean, when it's time to control the game, slow things down, get guys in the right spots, and execute offensively. I mean, Chris Paul, I think, still like might have slowed down as far as like speed, but there may other than LeBron, maybe Rondo, when we talk about guys who can think the game, I think he's right up there with any other greats in terms of like just the way he sees the game, the way he thinks the game. So it's not surprising at all that Phoenix is in this position.
All right, man. Get ready to get out of here, man. Thanks for joining us, and see you guys watching out there. This episode will be available on YouTube immediately after the show in its entirety. As we get ready to close it out, I want to talk about, before that, we talked about the ejection. I want to play these comments from Devin Booker. He talked about what led to the ejection and who he was snapping on. A lot of people assumed that he was fouled. He fouled Dennis Schroeder, and they thought it was a back and forth between him and Dennis Schroeder. But he went on to explain what really happened and why he felt like he had to say something that ultimately led to his ejection.
KCP say something to you from the bench?
No.
Leave?
No, I was one of the coaches.
Really?
Yeah. But I know a lot of those guys over there. I know Luke, Miles, B. Shaw. It wasn't any of them. So I didn't know who it was, the guy.
What did they say? Or can you repeat it?
I'm not here to tell on anybody.
Right. But yeah, I mean, you got pretty upset to walk from half court toward the bench.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not my coach, I don't know you. Don't say anything to me.
So there's Devin Booker on why he was so upset, what ultimately led to his ejection, which was a strange ejection, receiving 2 technical fouls back to back. And he was chirping with one of the officials on a couple of foul calls early in the first quarter there as well. So strange ejection, but how do you guys feel about that, man? It's like, especially with the fans not being there. And I see it a lot in the college game where you can literally hear what the players are saying on the bench. And they're letting out these screams. If you watch Illinois, every time they hit a 3, you hear them say boom really loud. So now, what coaches say on the sidelines are heard even more by the players on the court. So where's crossing the line when it comes to coaches saying things to players on the court? Or is that just part of the game, period?
It's part of the game.
It's part of the game. Like one of my go ahead.
Yeah, it's been part of the game. I think there was a game against Washington and Boston where literally you had Brad Stevenson calling what he's up, all the coaches are yelling what this last second play is, and basically it forces Beal into like a tough shot. Boston wins the game. This stuff happens, but now if you only got 200 fans in attendance, you can hear everything now. So
yeah,
I just want one of those situations now where if you're a pro, like you really shouldn't be worried about what some assistant coaches are saying, unless it gets to a point where it's just pure. It had to be something that was purely disrespectful in order for Devin Booker to take his attention off of the game to go over there and say something. So yeah, but this stuff happens all the time.
He probably said something about Kylie. But it's not for real. He probably did. But it's funny because I was having a conversation, like one of my best friends is a coach. And we was talking about just like how bad referees are. Like, and not just like at, the college level or, whatever like that, but just like across the board, like referees are just bad. And they're bad at doing their job, properly, and so it's one of those situations where, yeah, you can hear everything in the arena because like they basically empty now, but you've heard all this stuff before. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not new to you. If you've refed an NBA game, if you sat close to an NBA game, man, this talking to go on the entire, 48 minutes. I'm talking about disrespectful stuff too.
Yeah.
You hear it, you see it. You know what I'm saying? So it shouldn't really make a difference because there's fewer people in there. But I don't know. And then this is why I think the league gets involved because there is fewer people in there. And the action, like the viewing action is really on the court now. They're trying to crack down on certain things, but yeah, it's like, how you going to eject that kid for that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. My thing is always like, why do reporters ask, well, what did he Hey, we didn't have a player ever answer that question like honestly, like, hey, what did he say to you? Like,
All
I
right.
hate that question.
Or even on the record, you might find out later what
Yeah.
happened, but,
Yeah.
but you, like in that particular moment, no, they're not about to answer that question.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the Jeremy Lin thing, like, and I don't know how true it is. I mean, it probably did happen, but like, you gonna ask this man like who said it? Like,
Who said it?
Like, nah. Yeah, like, no,
I'm gonna go
not gonna do
hell.
that. Right, exactly. Nah, they're not gonna do that, man. And for you to even ask that question, just make like good reporters' jobs even harder. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that, man. That's stupid.
I'm pretty sure Jeremy Lin has heard way, way worse.
Way worse than that. I mean, but
way worse.
I mean, probably not. You know what I'm saying? Because this.
I'm pretty sure it's been worse.
No,
Yeah.
well, yeah, maybe, but I mean, come on, man. Like, he is, he probably hasn't heard worse, because if he'd heard worse, we'd have heard about that. This is probably the worst he's ever heard, which is why this story came out. So,
yeah, we talked about it early in the show today. A very important day in the business side of the NBA marks when a dozen free agents signed in the offseason. They're now eligible to be a part of trades as the trading deadline is coming upon us, and also trade exemptions. Certain things, Boston Celtics, $28.5 million for them, OKC, $27.3, and a $19.5 million trade exemption. The Nuggets have a $9.6 million. The Sixers have a $8.2. The Heat have a $7.6 million that they can acquire a player without sending back via trade now because of previously created trade exceptions. Golden State Warriors have a 9.25. So that's just some information out there in lieu of the approaching trade deadline. Let's end it up, man, with a special number here in Chicago, in the hearts of Chicago fans. Number 13, Joakim Noah, announced his retirement from the NBA and said that he wanted to retire a Chicago Bull. We look forward to the Chicago Bulls, however they want to handle that. We look forward to the
do it better than they got to do it better than whatever they did for Luau.
Luau,
that was
absolutely.
Yeah, they got to make this one like right, especially what Joe means to that organization, this city, the fans. Like, they got to make this one right.
Man, BC's conversation with Joakim is already a GIF, which is like amazing to me. My question to you guys simply: we know how much we love Joakim. We know how beloved he is in the city of Chicago. Will the number 13 hang in the rafters at the UC?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
Should it? Yeah.
Should it? Yeah.
Will it? It's the Bulls, man.
Yeah.
If there's questions around hanging Derek's number one, it really ain't no hope for Joakim for real. But I mean, it's not because he don't deserve it. It's just because it's the Bulls.
That's a tough one, because I'm not even looking at what he did here. I just look at the names that are already up there. So I think he definitely deserves to have his number retired. When you look at what the Bulls are in terms of like culture, what they've tried to embody themselves on after the Jordan years, Joe was that. Like, there were so many times that Joe played hurt when he shouldn't have been playing. I mean, he had plantar fasciitis, he had ankle issues, like shoulder issues. There was a lot of times where, like, as a reporter, you never say, hey, why you don't need to play, but Joe is built different. So I think he definitely deserves to have his jersey hanging up there. But like BC said, it's the Bulls. So they historically have shown, like, just what guys normally leave this organization with, like a bad taste in their mouth. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully Joe is the one that can help change all of that, because I think if Joe number goes up there, or I think Derek follows after that when his career is said and done. But I just look at how they did Luau, and I was like, yeah, you gotta do Joe like a little bit more service than they did Luau.
Y'all
Joe,
get that man a spinal tap in the middle of the
Yeah,
playoffs.
almost.
Y'all go,
Hey, almost, almost killed him.
almost killed the man.
Man.
And y'all gonna send him, that was y'all parting gift to him to do that.
Yeah.
So nah, man, look, they don't treat people right.
if that's the case, then they might as well wait until next season when we have full fan participation for Joe's ceremony. If you're gonna do it right, let him retire, let him do a press conference virtually, and then just have his big night. That first month when you come back in the fall.
You can't do nothing virtually with Joe, man. The people gonna have to be there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Joe is all about
the people gonna have to be
Joe
there.
is all
The people
about
gonna have to be there.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should wait. I think he should definitely retire, sign a one-day contract, retire a Chicago Bull, get his moment next season in the fall, and then see that jersey being raised in the rafters.
You know what? It's crazy, man, because I had tweeted this the other day. I'm like, I think I was responsible for the only feature that he's ever had in Slam. And I just found that check, man. Like I just seen the check. Man, I didn't make no bread from that. Like Slam probably owe me some money, man, for real.
You got to go back and
yeah. I looked at that. I was like,
hey,
but I mean, when I got it,
and Susan the email.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was like, all right, whatever, and I was grateful to be in the magazine. I'm only tripping, but man, like that's like one of my favorite people and one of my favorite players. And we did that interview, probably like a couple weeks after the whole Who Wants to Vacation in Cleveland thing.
Yeah.
The whole the loss to the Cavs in Cleveland on the road. They fly back the next night. They got exit meetings. You know what I'm saying? And he sat down with me and he chopped it up. So now, man, like Joakim Noah definitely number 13 definitely deserves to be retired in Chicago. Like there's no question about that.
Yeah,
give me one game. Go ahead, C4.
I say just forget what he did, like just on the court. We all know about that, but the stuff he did around the community. Joe would be on the west side of Chicago with no security. With jewelry on, ragged t-shirt, like just kicking it, like people pulling up, like Joe, you're not supposed to be over here. Joe is about the people, man. So I think his number definitely needs to be like in the rafters.
Man, it's like a little community center or something like that, like around the corner from the United Center, man. And we was over there one day, and like Joe was in there with them kids, like the kids knew him. You know what I'm saying? Like he was around. Like he wasn't just. Man, I've seen like pictures of Joe like in New York on the streets like way before Cavs. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like for as big of an athlete and a personality. I mean, and in his own right, like a superstar that he was, like he was always grounded. So I mean, like like Chris said, just for that alone, like the impact that he made in Chicago, like when all of the killings and everything. Like, he was on the south side of St. Sabina at them games, at Father Flaker's church. Like, like Chris said, he was on the west side. Like, you seen Joakim Noah. Like, he wasn't, you could reach him, you could touch him, you could talk to him, and he was happy to do that. You know what I'm saying? So, man, it's a special dude. Like, you don't meet too many people like that, and it was an honor to have covered that team. I still think that is probably one of the when you talk about putting a team together, that is like one of the most perfectly assembled teams I've probably ever seen of in a while.
Give me the one game you're going to put in a time capsule for somebody to find 50 years from now in Chicago to let them know who Joakim Noah was. Either a game or a moment.
For me, it would. It's probably I can't remember what game this was, but it was against the Brooklyn Nets. The Bulls had no business winning the game or that series at all. I think it might have been a game 5 or something. I know it was
game 7 up in Brooklyn.
I don't know if it was a game 7, but it was a game where
it was definitely a series-ending game up in Brooklyn.
Or it may be a game before that. I just remember his stat line was something like 23 points. I think he had like 16 rebounds, 6 blocks. or something like that. I mean, he basically willed, you know, that team. But when we talk about any Joakim or a game, like that's what it's about. It's just that energy, like it was unmatched. I mean, he was essentially like trying to think of, you could basically just, I would say Rodman almost. I mean, just that energy, it was infectious. And that Brooklyn game, and then there was I can't remember what game it was against the Boston Celtics. But yeah, that Brooklyn game probably is it for me.
For me, it's probably gonna be the game where he made John Paxson and Vinny Del Negro fight. Like that was the game. Like
The minute
when I'm talking about, yeah, like his plantar fasciitis was bad, bro. Like it was bad. He couldn't even walk.
No.
And like he stayed out there in that game, man, and helped them boys win. And in them Lake Hawk sportifs he was rocking. And his feet was dogs was barking. And John Paxson came down there, man. I'm talking about fire red heat. And like it was, but it wasn't really Vinny Del Negro's fault. He couldn't take Joakim out of the game. Like he was not coming out of that game. Minute restrictions are nothing. Like he was not coming out of that game. That was they won like 10 or like they last 11 games to make the playoffs. Actually, yeah, that was the game. That's how I ended up doing that story. But yeah, they had to like they went on like this stupid streak, bro, like to win, like just to make the playoffs. And this was in like when the time like Joakim had already missed like 11 games, like with the plantar fasciitis. So for him to come back and like Casey Johnson said it best, like Joakim Noah like gets it. And I'm talking about, and that's just like in everything, where it's dealing with the media, dealing with teammates, or anything going out there on that floor. He gets it. He understands what each moment calls for. He steps up to that. So yeah, that's gonna be the game for me because it was like I think they was playing like Phoenix or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they were down and like they won that game because he never came out of it. So yeah, me, that was it.
Yeah, C4, that game was May 3rd, 2013, game 7 against Brooklyn on the road, 24, 14, and 8 for Joakim Noah.
Yep.
So that was the same series with was that the same series Nate went off?
Nate Robert, yep.
Yeah.
And that was also the year they ran everything through Joe. They ran everything through him. Like that's how he was getting all them assists like that. You know what I'm saying? Like he could
triple doubles.
Yeah. Like it's not many players, particularly at that particular size, that can do stuff like that. And then when you look at him and like, oh, he don't have no skills. And Joakim can literally do everything except shoot.
It's funny because that's what he did for Florida. That's the same way Billy Donovan used Joakim, man. That got to the 2 national championships, teams couldn't made him a lottery pick because teams, bigs in college couldn't defend him on the perimeter.
Man, when Tom Thibodeau figured out that he could run his offense through Joakim, putting him at the top of the key, and he could initiate everything from right there, it was over. Forget, like, I knew right then that's when Joakim Noah was special.
Well, even if they don't raise it at the UC, we'll raise it here tonight. The number 13 banner goes up in the A2S rafters for sure.
So he respected in the streets for real.
Man, salute to Joakim Noah. He deserves every piece of love and gratitude that he gets from this day forward, especially in the city of Chicago. Last but not least, before we let you go, Imani Bates, 2022 number 1 player in the nation, has already announced to Tom Izzo, Michigan State, that he's going to forego college and go join the elite team in the NBA G League. Jalen Green, Kuminga, and also Shaun KNICKS are 3 of the guys that did that from last year, and they're playing right now on that team. They're actually, I think they're in 3rd place in the G League. Right now they sit at 7-4 on the season. Kuminga and Jalen Green have pretty much solidified themselves as top 10 picks with their play. and KNICKS might be the back end of the lottery, but he'll definitely be in the first round. So what do you think about Imani Bates making this move? Before he didn't even have to say anything because he's not coming out to next year. He doesn't have to declare
Exactly.
until this fall or early in 2022. Is this another sign that the NCAA and the direction it's going is in trouble? Even though it looks like they're changing with the announcement of EA bringing that college football game back, the legislation is there for players to receive compensation for their likeness. And that legislation is coming down the pipe. Is it too soon? Is it just a matter of just being too late for the NCAA and the horse is out the barn now with these players going to the G League?
I mean, why go play for free when you can make some money? And make some real money. Being able to get paid off of your likeness is not the same as signing a professional contract and everything that comes along with that. And it's like I said on Facebook today, eventually the NCAA is gonna have to start paying players because when you got it, you know what I'm saying? When you got a guy like Imani Bates, what is he still a junior, right?
Still a junior, yeah.
Still a junior, #1 player in high school basketball, and he ain't even in his senior year of high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, you the #1 player in the country. If enough of those players start saying, hey, I'm gonna go to the G League or I'm gonna go overseas or whatever like that, the NCAA gonna have to, they're gonna have to relook at some things like that. That slave model of, coming over here and playing for the name on the jersey, that's dead.
That Coach K model? That Coach K model?
Yeah, that's over with, man.
Is it fair to say Coach Cal created the first G League in Kentucky? The mentality without the pay?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, no, I ain't gonna say that because North Carolina had the same kind of whip. They was getting the same kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It was same kind of thing. I think it's just, a guy like Brandon Jennings really started it. And being a little guard, they could say I don't have to go to college. I can go over here and make some money, and once that kind of opened the door, because y'all remember, Europe wasn't really wide open to American players like that. You know what I'm saying? You can only have 1 or 2 guys from America, that's playing on them European teams, and everybody else had to be from Europe and over the hoop over there. Well, now it's a little bit different. Now everything is wide open. Europe will take as many players as they're gonna send them. So, and these kids, they know that. They understand that it's a business now. Why the hell am I gonna go to school? I'm trying to get out of high school. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of going to class. You mean to tell me I still got to go to class for another year before I can get to this bread? No, I can go over here and make $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever. I think the G League, what is it? The elite team, how much is the highest player making? $100,000, something like that?
100, yeah.
Yeah,
100 grand,
something like that.
I mean, look, $100,000 to stay at the crib. You ain't gotta go. You ain't gotta get your passport stamped. You can stay local. Your people can still see you play. You're making $100,000, and if you kill, then next year you're gonna get drafted into the league.
I think the elite team is based in Cali, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, it comes down to I am tired of going to school. You know what I'm saying? I'm good enough to be able to make some money. Yeah. Let me cash in on my talent. And the NCAA, they might be in trouble. That likeness stuff might be cool for them 1 and 2 star players, 3-star guys, maybe some of those guys.
Well, it's definitely worth it for football because you can't leave it until your 3rd year anyway.
Yeah.
For football.
Which I think is probably the right thing. But basketball, it don't run like that.
Right.
It really don't run like that. You can be good enough at 19, 18 years old to go in there and, and stick and stay. So, yeah, NCAA basketball is about to change big time.
Success of LaMelo Ball is pretty much on it. That is a pathway.
He's the modern day Brandon Jennings. Like a lot of these kids coming up now, they don't know who Brandon Jennings is, and that wasn't that long ago.
Right.
But they definitely know who LaMelo Ball is, and they know LaMelo Ball been cashing checks since he was 17.
Facts. C4.
Yeah, I agree fully. I think the NCAA is just going to have to change. They're going to have like some very uncomfortable conversations with them because, you know, their whole thinking is just the bottom line. How you can't have March Madness if, you know, without, you got to have school pride is one thing, but we're all tuning in to March Madness to see players. Oh, and if you don't have like those 4 or 5-star guys, those guys start matriculating to the G League now, going over to C's, then suddenly now your bottom line is affected. So the NCAA is just going to have to do some deep diving just to see how they can kind of come up with some solution to get these guys, you know, paid, at least if not up to the extent that the G League is paying the top guys, at least something, you know, that's, you know, worth keeping the kid in school for a year.
And, you know, and the other thing is they're working off an old model. You know,
Yep.
like when we was coming up, we was all about the brand, you know what I'm saying? So we was about the team.
Right.
Now, man, these kids are following their favorite players. They don't give a damn about no team no more. So why am I watching North Carolina and North Carolina don't have nobody that I know on their team to make me watch them? I'm not gonna watch it just because it's North Carolina. You know, I watch the Illinois-Michigan game. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch Illinois-Michigan because I know, you know, how far back that rivalry go. I'm looking at that, you know, I'm looking at the team. There ain't really nobody on there, you know what I'm saying? There ain't really like no big name marquee players that's on that team that is gonna make somebody watch them.
And that speaks to the national landscape too. I mean, when you look at the race for a player of the year, and you got like Ayo and Luka Garza at the top, like there's no real true superstars in college basketball. And there are no more superstar teams. I guess the last superstar team might be the Zion Williamson team at Duke. That might end up being the last superstar team we see in college basketball.
I mean, there's no more real superstar players anymore, neither. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might got 1 or 2 guys, and then everybody else is just like, you know, the playing field is really flat right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, college basketball is basically going to be in a bidding war for these, you know, for these top tier guys. And the only way you can get into a bidding war is if you got some bread, man. Like, yeah, you go like the bag it can't be under the table no more. It's got to be right out front.
Yeah, just make the bag legit.
Like, what are you gonna offer me to pass up going to play professionally to come to class for another year?
Right, because telling me to pay my tuition, that's not enough. Especially when what I do on the court pays the tuition and funds the rest of this athletic department.
Right, I'm playing for sneakers and sweatshirts, and you know, when I can make some real paper, that don't make no sense. Mark Emmett and them, and he's still running NCAA.
Yeah,
Mark Emmett,
he's still running.
Yeah, all right, he gonna have to figure something out.
That is the podcast according to sources, man. What's the flavor in your ear before we get out of here?
Man, I'm listening. Man, I stumbled upon this dude, and I ain't know he had been making some music for this long, but this cat out in New York named UFO Thief. I was listening to, you know, Conway Big Ghost collab, and it was in my Apple Music. Big Ghost had worked with this dude, and I listened to it. It was some heat. Followed him on Twitter, gave him a shout out. He followed me back, so yeah, I'm catching up on UFO Feed right now. I put Gino on, but yeah, it's the Ghost of Al Bizu. Check that out.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that out. C4.
I'm gonna check that out. I haven't been listening to nothing, to be honest with you.
You've been grinding, bro. You've been putting out
in grind mode. So yeah, so I haven't gotten a chance to see it. It's a lot of stuff that I got like wrote down to listen to, but yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and listen to anything.
But he's still getting merch, though.
Still getting merch. We see that. IG story lit.
Man, they still seeding them, my man. He on everybody's seed list.
I gotta keep it going.
You gotta keep it going. That's the best perk in this game.
Shout out to my nephew, man. His birthday's today, man. He's 22 years old. Shout out to my boy JJ. Shout out to little JJ on his first varsity basketball game.
Man,
that game got canceled, man. I'm so mad. They're gonna play Friday though. They canceled
the first game Friday for BC, son, man. Starting point guard on varsity as a
Hey,
freshman.
BC, we old, man. BC,
Yo,
hey, BC tweeted something. I was like, damn. I was like, how many years is it? And I remember that.
man.
Dude, I remember because I was thinking about that time y'all did the Red Bull Rain 3-on-3 tournament. I was like, man, how
Yeah,
long ago? I was like, how long ago was that? I was just playing 1-on-1 with this kid. I was like, and
man.
I was like, man, it go back.
I thought about
that.
that Red Bull Rain the other day, man. I had a game winner. That was dope. I thought about that. We advanced to the second round and got scraped. But yeah, I helped out though.
So man, my flavor in your ear, my nephew put me up on Coi Leray. Decent. Definitely exceeded my expectations because I went in with low expectations. She just happens to be Benzino's daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. New artist, and she's.
Does she have a neck?
Yes, she does.
Okay,
Her
good.
story is dope. Her story is dope. She has a new EP out. Well, it came out last year, and the EP is dope. And her story is dope too because she spent. She was born into source money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the first half of her life was like really affluent, and then once everything kind of went downhill, she moved back with her mom's in the mud, and that created her other alter ego. So she had.
Damn, that don't look good for Benzino.
And it doesn't. It doesn't.
It really does.
She beefs with him, but she shows a lot of love to him. So just check her out, and also watch the Biggie I Got a Story to Tell documentary.
That was dope.
Man, it was very
That was super dope. It was very good. It's probably the best Biggie documentary I've ever seen.
Yeah, very well done.
out
You start to see. I think BC, you said it best. Like, yo, this kid was 20.
He was 24 years old, making that between 22 and 24 years old. He made music that somebody that age should not only not be able to make, but it's still timeless to this very day. Like you still listen to Biggie, it's like it's gonna be good regardless of when you listen to it.
Yeah,
at 24 years old, that's incredible.
And I think the way they went into his background musically, not only from Jamaica, but his mentor down the street that had him going to jazz clubs and listening to jazz music at an early age.
Like these are things I never even thought. Like, damn, Biggie had a grandmother. You know what I'm saying? Like he had an uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of thing. Like so, yeah. And if y'all can get your hands on City of Lies, which is another movie about Biggie, I don't know if y'all know the story about that, but if you can get that, if you can get your hands on that movie, man, watch that because it directly implicates the LAPD in his murder, and it's the reason why that movie was never released in the United States. Check that out.
Hey, man, how much money y'all got to go buy some bots?
Ooh.
Hey, I don't have a Nike exact credit card.
Man.
Condolences.
What an
idiot. It just shows you dude, you making six figures a year. Like I think for him it was just all about Bloomberg reached out to us like, oh, okay, this is a whole business. Not thinking that, hey, I could cost my mom my job.
Right.
How old is this kid?
I think 19 or 20.
19.
Yeah, he's young.
19.
Yeah.
He did exactly what I would expect a 19-year-old.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, Nike was on to this back in 2018. Just really nothing they could do about it with the evidence they had.
Well, here's the thing. The reason they really couldn't do anything about it is because he was not getting shoes from his mother. The only thing that she did was front the money. And she probably didn't even really know. She knew. I'm going to say she knew. She definitely knew. But he wasn't just dealing in Nikes, though. He wasn't just dealing in Nikes. He was buying everything.
But what ties it in is if you're using like her credit card to buy bots, to use Nike's sneaker release platform, and then like a lot of things people don't talk about is the swoosh account. This guy admitted to he was buying out like stocks of shoes that he knew he could still make a profit off of. So if he's buying like just a whole section of shoes off of like swoosh accounts that are marked down from like 30 to 40% off, and then reselling them like at a higher value. Like it's like there's no way. I know people that have been fired from Nike just for being like implicated in something. She actually went to them and said, "Hey, my son has this reselling business." That didn't spark an investigation. Like, hey, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that,
because he was buying up
they let the lady.
Right.
He was buying up, but he buying
true,
up
but
anything.
still, your mom is a VP at the thing. You're using her credit card, and you're using Nike's platform. You're bodying Nike's platform, so it's like a conflict of interest.
But everybody is using bots though. Like I was telling y'all in the text,
agree.
like my man is like a super sneaker reseller. He put me on the game a long time ago, and it's like everybody is doing it. Like he just had more money than the major players. But the thing about that is, even though his mama, even though he basically implicated his mama and she had to resign and everything like that, the hustle ain't gotta stop.
Yeah.
It don't have to stop. He could still make money doing what he's doing because it's not illegal. Like it's like I said, it's unethical as hell.
Too.
Yeah, they let her resign.
They let her resign.
Yeah,
and then they might
keep her picture.
She keeps
and then they might quietly work her back into some other stuff, like as a consultant, and her name won't never be on nothing. But she's been there 25 years, and for her to be there that long, she's very good at what they do. Nike, as long as you stay within this particular box in this line, Nike is gonna be good with you. So yeah, it ain't over for her. The kid was just stupid. Like at the end of the day, he was just dumb. Like he was clout chasing.
Yeah.
And that and he's just a stupid kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I can see a 19-year-old doing that. I can absolutely see it. But man, it's a dirty game. Like I said, he is the man on StockX. The Kobe's that I done bought off StockX, I know I done put some money in.
It was supplied by him.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he buying everything. He got, and it ain't just him. He got a team. If you read the article, like he got some other little dudes running with him, and they all, you know what I'm saying? Like they killing it right now. They crack the code.
Yep.
No, not at all.
And Herbert, the executive we're talking about, her 19-year-old son ran West Coast Streetwear.
She had a black card too, and he was, oh my God, he was
She resigned.
Ain't got no limit. Ain't got no limit on that.
Oh my God.
Nike said to find her replacement shortly to run the North America division of Nike. So we'll look for that announcement coming up within a few days.
Oh, you ain't gonna never hear about this again.
No.
You ain't gonna know who replaced the
swept under the rug.
Completely. This is embarrassment enough.
That's the podcast according to sources, man. All-Star weekend next week. NBA fans, enjoy the festivities, even though they probably shouldn't be happening. Stay safe. To all my Chicago people, hey, stay off Southwest. Don't go into Atlanta. I know that's falling on deaf ears because I know all of y'all will be down there partying. But
wait, did y'all see the schedule they put out for Saturday and Sunday?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So they put out the official party schedule for Saturday and Sunday, and like they got rules about they basically gonna have a bubble in Atlanta for Saturday and Sunday. They ain't said nothing about Friday.
Or Thursday.
Or Thursday. Nothing. So yeah, this is the mother of bad ideas. So we're gonna see how this is the mother of bad ideas.
You add Mississippi and Texas to Atlanta.
You could put that All-Star game in anywhere. If you really wanted to control it, you'd have put it in Denver. You know what I'm saying? But you're gonna have it in Atlanta? Come on, man. Like I seen everywhere that Gucci Mane gonna be. I seen everywhere Pooh Shiesty gonna be. I done seen everywhere Jeezy gonna be. I know where every compound is going to be cracking. Onyx is going to open back up. Listen, man, and James Harden who's going. Let's just end this now.
Don't expect James Harden to play well on Sunday.
What? For a week? Not just Sunday, a week after that. Like, just, yeah, you're not going to get nothing from him. KD better come back quick. Otherwise, Brooklyn in trouble.
Hey, man, the podcast according to sources. streaming on all digital platforms. Go subscribe to A2S Network on YouTube right now. As I said before, if you missed any parts of the show, go watch it in its entirety right there on YouTube. It is there immediately after we finish the show. For my guys, Brian Crawford, Chris CASON, I am SD2 Mics, three dudes from the game who love the game, talking the game right here. Podcast according to sources, A2S Network.